Okay. RA 6969 is entitled Toxic Substances and Hazardous and Nuclear Waste Control Act of 1990. So it defines what's a hazardous waste. So as we have defined also in our lecture, all hazardous waste are classified as solid waste, but not all solid waste are classified as hazardous. It all depends on their toxicity, ignitability, reactivity, and corrosivity. But in the recent reference book on solid waste and hazardous waste, they have added whether it's pathological or infectious. That would refer to the biomedical waste. Now, the RA 6969 is actually a policy of the state to regulate, restrict, or prohibit importation, manufacture, processing, sale, distribution, use, and disposal of chemical substances and mixtures. That's why, as I mentioned, Philippine Coast Guard is very keen in inspecting because of the previous happenings or occurrence when developed countries tried to give us biomedical donations or medical donations, which were then found to be biomedical waste. So we prohibited from this law the entry of these biomedical waste in our premises. Okay. Now, this law also needs to provide advancement in facilitated research and studies on toxic chemicals and hazardous and nuclear waste. Now, the implementation of requirement of MSDS, material safety data sheet for each chemical that is being utilized by any industry or any laboratory is also under this RA 6969. The law also encourages proper management of hazardous waste generated within the country to minimize generation, recycle, reuse, treatment, landfill of inert hazardous waste. Now, with respect to landfilling, let us reiterate that no sanitary landfill is allowed to accept hazardous waste without treatment as a waste. So it was stipulated also in the plant visit that we had yesterday. Now, hazardous waste shall be managed in such a manner not to cause pollution, state of danger of public health, safety and welfare. It also need not to harm animals, plants, and vegetation, and limitation in the beneficial use of a segment of the environment. I understand that in some cases, special waste would have special sanitary landfill. But due to the lack of areas in the Philippines, the provision states that you can, let's say for example, on fluorescent lamps, you can have them as part of the normal or ordinary or conventional sanitary landfill as long as they are treated first. Now, the policy also states that the waste generator shall be responsible for the proper management and disposal of the hazardous waste. If you recall, we discussed in hazardous waste the paradigm. So you have the waste generator, the transporter, then the treater. Now, from the point of source down to the treatment, it's still the responsibility of the waste generator. So, it's the waste generator that should ensure that the treater is properly accredited and that the transporter is also properly accredited by the government or by DNR. Now, when we do ISO 40000 audit, we actually require this. So if I see the list of their waste and I have found some hazardous waste, I would ask them who particularly treat a specific waste. Now, I would also get the corresponding permit of each treater as well as transporter. If I find that the certificates and the permits are not properly renewed, that is a non-compliance against their ISO 42000 accreditation. Then, the waste generator shall bear the cost for the proper storage, treatment, and disposal of their hazardous waste. So it's all the waste generator that would be paying the transporter as well as the treater. With respect to the transporter, they are the ones responsible for the insurance just in case there is a spillage and the cleanup operations. But still, the transporter would be charging the waste generator. I have learned from the business that they could charge as much as 50% of the original operation or hauling cost just for the insurance. Okay. RA 9003 have classified solid waste in the same manner RA 6969 has classified hazardous waste. So you have here the list as we have also discussed in our lecture. Now, some of the exempted waste, as we have discussed also, would include garbage from domestic premises and household. Normally, these are organic waste which can be utilized as compost or used for composting. Industrial and commercial wastewaters which are disposed of on-site through the sewage system, such as Pozo Negro, so that is being taken care of another law. Then industrial and commercial solid waste which do not contain hazardous waste, because that will be taken care of RA 9003. Materials from building demolition except asbestos, because they are required to be contained. Then septic tank effluents, associated sludge, wastewater, untreated spoils from mining, quarrying, excavation. Now, all these are exempted not because we don't consider them as waste, but they should be treated and should be disposed properly. That's why they are not. So, upon that treatment, they are already considered under RA 9003 and not anymore under RA 6969. Okay, so all waste generators shall provide the government the information on the type and quantity of waste generated, produced, or transported outside. This is the list or the manifesto that we have discussed in hazardous waste. Now, with respect to the manifesto, the rule of thumb for industries is to make it as short as possible. So what do? You're not going to shorten it as in neglect them, but you have to make a way in such that your hazardous waste will be converted to solid waste. So as an example, tank rather, and the container is considered as hazardous waste. If you take out the hardened paint, that's already a solid waste. So you have to find a way to shorten your list in such manner. Then you have the waste generator shall submit comprehensive emergency contingency plan to mitigate spills and accidents involving chemical substances and hazardous substances. When we do an audit, we normally ask what do they do during chemical spills. If there is a discrepancy between the answer of the manager as well as the security guard and the janitor, that's already a non-compliance. So they must have a standard operating procedure. Okay. Waste generator should be responsible in training the personnel and staff on implementation of the plan, handling, storage, transport, and use of chemical substances in their containers. So we normally ask the rank and well as the managers, where do you put this waste? Or what do you mean with this color of the bin? So they have to know. Even the signages, they have to know to classify whether it's hazardous or not. Okay? So no hazardous waste is allowed to be transported unless prior permit is secured. So the transporter itself should have a permit.